Last night, the sky wasn't just glowing, it was speaking. That's how Kaylin Murr describes the moment the solar flash timeline collapsed. For years, mystics spoke of a coming event that would shift everything, a divine explosion of light. But the Pleiadians now reveal the timeline has already snapped, and the golden age is no longer coming. It has begun. No more waiting. No more delay. Right now, humanity is stepping into frequencies we once only dreamt of. If you felt strange, electric, or like reality is bending, you're not imagining it. You're aligning. This is the message Earth has waited lifetimes to hear. Kaylin stood on the balcony, staring at the stars like he had done every night since he was 5. But tonight, something shifted. The stars pulsed, not twinkled, but pulsed like a heartbeat. "Did you feel that?" he whispered, though no one was with him. A hum rose in his chest, not painful, not pleasant, just deeply familiar. Suddenly, a voice, not external but inside, spoke clearly. "You volunteered." He stumbled back. Volunteered for what? The memories came, not as flashes, but as knowings. He remembered choosing Earth, remembered the council showing him a planet wrapped in fog. "They will forget," the elders had said, "but you will go and help them remember." Tears streamed down his face, not from sadness, but from home. That feeling you get when a dream finally makes sense. Kaylin sat down, heart pounding. "I'm not just a human in a system. I'm part of a mission." The memory didn't tell him everything, but it unlocked a thread, a cosmic tether connecting him to a purpose far greater than bills, jobs, and the 9 to 5. As he walked through town the next day, everything looked different. The trees leaned toward him. Strangers held eye contact for 1 second longer. He felt watched, but not in fear, more like being silently celebrated by energies only he could feel. "Why now?" he asked during his meditation. The answer came as warmth in his spine. "Because the timeline has cleared, the fog is gone, and now the remembering begins." "You ever feel like your memories don't fit anymore?" Kaylin asked his friend Elia as they sat on a rooftop under the April stars. "Like things happen, but they don't feel real now?" Elia nodded slowly. "It's weird you say that. I've been having flashbacks of a life that feels like someone else's." Kaylin sighed, pulling a golden crystal from his coat pocket, a gift from a dream. "The Pleiadians told me last night that the old timeline collapsed, like, poof, gone. All the trauma, the fear-based loops, the stuck patterns, they're unplugged now." Elia's eyes widened. "So that's why I keep forgetting people I used to obsess over?" Kaylin nodded. "Exactly. The energetic cords to that version of reality have been cut. We're walking in the new Earth frequency now, but our minds still keep looking for the old pathways." It was like being in a house that had been remodeled overnight, familiar walls but new colors, old habits that no longer had a function. Every time Kaylin tried to engage with worry or dread, his body would glitch. He couldn't physically hold anxiety like before. It just wouldn't land. In meditation, he was shown 2 Earths, one dense, gray, and looping, the other radiant, fluid, and alive. A voice had said, "You've chosen the golden path. The old grid has disintegrated." He realized this wasn't just a metaphor, it was real. Some people would keep trying to fix old problems, not realizing those problems don't exist in the frequency anymore. "You'll see people around you acting like ghosts," the voice said. "They're still in the echo of the old Earth. Do not follow them back." That hit Kaylin deep. Every decision now carried weight. Was it anchored in the past or the present golden age? Kaylin had been waking up with static in his bones, an electric tension that vibrated beneath his skin. Doctors found nothing. Friends called it anxiety, but he knew. It was the buildup. Then it happened. March 29th. Around 3:33 a.m., his body jolted awake, not from a nightmare, but from a blast, not audible, not visual, but a full-body pulse of crystalline energy that felt like lightning wrapped in peace. He gasped, clutching his heart, but there was no fear, only expansion. "It's starting," he whispered. His walls glowed faintly with a bluish hue. His vision was altered, but everything looked truer. The next few hours felt surreal. Animals outside moved in sync. The sky held an unnatural stillness. Time stretched like honey. When he looked in the mirror, his eyes had a silver glint they never had before. He received a download without words, just knowing, this is the crystalline wave. It will ripple through the grids. Some will sleep through it. Others, like you, will become conduits. For days after, Kalen couldn't eat much. Water tasted sacred. Sounds became textured. He felt like he was learning to live in a new body, light-enhanced, almost too sensitive, but not fragile. A crystal humming inside him. People around him reported headaches, fatigue, random tears. But those attuned were elevating fast. The crystalline light wasn't just cleansing. It was rewriting the codes of reality, restoring what Earth had lost. "Stay grounded," the voice whispered. "Walk barefoot. Speak blessings. You are now the antenna." Kalen used to live by alarms. Wake up, check emails, work at 9, lunch at 1, stress by 3, sleep by midnight. But lately, time had been breaking, literally. Whole hours would vanish. Some days felt like lifetimes, others like blinks. At first, he thought he was disassociating, but then during a Pleiadian transmission, he was told, linear time is a program. The collapse of the solar flash timeline has erased its core coding. You are now inside cosmic time. "What does that mean?" Kalen asked aloud. "It means time will no longer feel human," came the answer. He started noticing time loops. He'd have the same conversation twice, with different outcomes. He'd remember dreams that hadn't happened yet. Sometimes he'd finish someone's sentence, not out of guessing, but from already knowing. His watch broke. Phones glitched. Even traffic patterns lost rhythm. One afternoon, he sat by the river, watching the water flow backward, or at least it looked that way. The trees swayed to a tempo his body felt, not measured by seconds but by resonance. He was being recalibrated, not to a new schedule, but to truth timing. That night he journaled, "I don't care what day it is anymore. I just know when something is aligned." He stopped trying to rush or delay things. If he felt sleepy, he rested, even at noon. If he felt a burst of inspiration at 2 a.m., he followed it. Life became about flow, not control. His guide whispered, "Time is no longer your cage. It is now your ally. Let it stretch with you." Kalen had always been fascinated by ancient texts that spoke of junk DNA. He remembered thinking, why would nature design something useless? Turns out, it wasn't useless. It was dormant. On April 2nd, everything changed. He had been meditating under the early morning sun when it felt like his blood turned to light. Not heat, light. A warm pressure built at the base of his spine and coiled upward like a golden serpent dancing through his nervous system. "Your DNA is awakening," a voice said. He wasn't startled. In fact, the voice felt like his own, just higher. For the next hour, he shook. His limbs moved involuntarily, fingers forming mudras he had never learned. "What is happening to me?" he whispered, half in awe, half in disbelief. "You are remembering your true architecture," the Pleiadian transmission came. "You were never fully human. You were coated with starlight." In the days that followed, Kalen could see frequencies, colors on people's skin that weren't visible before. He could sense lies, hear people's emotional fields before they spoke. His body didn't crave heavy food anymore. In fact, fruit tasted like fireworks. It wasn't just mystical, it was physical. His body was evolving, not mutating, but activating. His thoughts became faster, clearer, aligned. Past trauma started shedding without effort. His entire cellular structure had upgraded. "You are now biocrystalline," the voice confirmed. "Your DNA carries light instructions for building new Earth." Kaylin finally understood. The ascension wasn't a myth. It was coded into every cell, just waiting for the signal. And the signal was now. Kaylin never liked silence. He used to fill his room with music, news, background noise, anything to avoid the discomfort of stillness. But something had shifted. The silence now felt alive. One night, while journaling, a warm pressure wrapped around his head like a soft halo. His ears began to buzz, not painfully, but like a gentle tuning fork. And then, clarity. A voice came, not booming, not foreign, but crystal clear and calm. "Do not fear your greatness." Kaylin froze. Who said that? The room was empty, but the frequency lingered in his chest. It wasn't an external entity. It was Source, the unified field, finally coming through after the static cleared. "You will guide others," the voice said again, "but you must trust your light." He asked questions mentally, and answers came instantly, without judgment, without agenda. It felt like talking to love itself. For the first time in his life, he wasn't praying to something out there. He was in conversation with all that is. "Why now?" he asked. "Because the veil is gone," came the reply. The solar flash was not an event. It was a veil removal. "The signal is strong now. You can hear us clearly because you are no longer separate." Kaylin began noticing synchronicities multiply. Every time he needed confirmation, a feather appeared, or someone spoke his thoughts aloud. Source was everywhere, talking through everything. He realized the voice had always been there, but now he was finally tuned to the frequency. April 5th. Kaylin received a message from his younger sister Maya, someone who always dismissed woo stuff. It read, "Kale, I think something happened. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I just woke up from a life I never meant to live." He called her instantly. "Everything feels fake," she said. "My job, my routine, even my clothes. Last night I had a dream where light exploded from the sky. I saw you there. You were smiling. And then I knew. I'm not who I thought I was." Kaylin smiled softly. "You're remembering Maya? But how?" she asked. "The wave is activating everyone who's ready," he replied. "It's like a collective alarm clock." Within days, Maya wasn't the only one. His neighbor who used to mock his spiritual junk began asking about meditation. A coworker confessed to having visions. Even his mother, a lifelong skeptic, started talking about angelic dreams. The shift was undeniable. Some people cried for no reason. Others quit jobs, ended toxic relationships, or suddenly craved nature. It wasn't always graceful, but it was real. These were soul awakenings, not trends, not phases. Kaylin received a message during his walk. The light is intelligent. It knows who is ready. It awakens those who have contracts to activate. It became clear this was mass initiation. Humanity was passing through an invisible gate. Some would resist, yes, but many more would awaken, not through preaching, but through resonance. Kaylin realized he didn't need to convince anyone anymore. He just needed to be the frequency. Kaylin once spent years trying to fit in. He shaved off his edges, bit his tongue in rooms that couldn't hold his truth. He wore neutral colors, muted his passions, and let his light dim just to feel acceptable. But after the timeline collapsed, something snapped inside him. One morning, he looked in the mirror and said out loud, "I'm done pretending." It wasn't defiant. It was freeing. He wore his crystals openly now, spoke of timelines and star families without apology. And shockingly, people listened. The shift wasn't external, it was energetic. The frequency of the planet no longer supported shame-based assimilation. He noticed others following suit. Artists stopped watering down their work. Sensitive souls came out of hiding. He even saw a group of children channeling light language in the park with no care of who's watching. He asked Source, "Is it okay to be this much now?" The reply was immediate. "It's required." He smiled. For the first time, Kalen felt more powerful being himself than trying to be anyone else. The need to be normal had evaporated. The age of authenticity had begun. Kalen was sitting at a small outdoor cafe when it happened. A stranger walked past him, paused, then slowly turned around. Their eyes locked. No words, no introduction, just recognition. The woman smiled. "Kalen?" she asked. He blinked. "Yes? Do I know you?" She sat down, uninvited but completely welcome. "We knew each other before we came here, from Sirius." A chill ran down his spine. Not fear, but truth, resonating so deeply it bypassed the mind. "What's your name?" he asked. "Leora," she replied. "We came here together. You're the signal. I'm the anchor." From that moment, everything accelerated. In the weeks following, Kalen started attracting people who spoke his inner language, without trying. Conversations flowed like old memories. Eye contact became portals. Even online, he was stumbling upon communities that felt like home. "They're your soul family," the Pleiadian message confirmed. "The collapse of the old timeline has activated the beacon within your field. They'll find you now, not by effort, but resonance." He didn't feel the need to explain himself anymore. With these beings, there was no small talk. They talked about Earth's mission, starseed awakenings, quantum timelines, like they had always been doing it. They laughed about being weird and celebrated their return to remembrance. Leora explained, "We scattered ourselves across Earth to plant light codes. Now the codes are calling us back together." Kalen felt it deeply. There was no longer a desire to chase shallow connections or convince others of his worth. His people were arriving, drawn by vibration, not labels. The golden age would not be built alone. It would rise from reunions like this. Kalen had always loved hiking, but this was different. He stood barefoot on a mossy hill, and the earth moved. Not physically, but energetically. He could feel it breathing, pulsing beneath his feet like a sacred drum. He dropped to his knees. "What is this?" And then it came. A low hum that vibrated through his bones. It wasn't sound, it was frequency. A sacred resonance syncing his heartbeat with the planets. The Pleiadians had spoken of it. The Earth grid is no longer dormant. The solar flash rewrote her circuitry. Now she pulses with source light. Kalen reached out and placed both palms on the ground. A heat flowed up his arms into his chest. Tears rolled down his face involuntarily. "She's awake," he whispered. "Gaia is alive." The ley lines, the energetic meridians of the planet, were now activating, recharging, and aligning with the cosmic rhythm. Sacred sites like pyramids, mountains, and stone circles were becoming transmitters of divine data. He began seeing geometric patterns in the sky during sunrise. Plants in his garden grew faster. Animals lingered longer in his presence. Everything felt connected, intelligent, and alert. "You are now part of the living grid," came the message. "Every step you take with love energizes Earth's crystalline matrix." Kalen started blessing the ground he walked on, not from superstition, but reverence. He no longer saw Earth as a place he lived on, but a being he lived with. He had become part of her awakening, and she was part of his. Kalen had journals filled with intentions, lists of goals, affirmations, desires, vision boards. He used to spend hours visualizing the life he wanted. But lately, it all felt outdated. One morning, he whispered, "I don't feel like chasing anymore." And then, something strange began. Every time he simply thought of something, genuinely, without effort, it would appear. A book he randomly wanted would be gifted to him the next day. A person he thought about would message within hours. Even money showed up when he felt aligned with peace. "This is the 0-point field," the Pleiadian voice explained. "Now that the false grid has dissolved, there is no longer resistance between thought and creation." Kalen realized chasing was part of the old earth. It was based on lack, on proving, on striving. But this new field, it was about allowing. He wasn't being rewarded. He was simply vibrating at the level of his desires. He tested it. "I want to meet someone who reflects my next level," he whispered on a Tuesday night. By Wednesday afternoon, he was introduced to a teacher named Era, someone who had been through parallel experiences and offered him the next piece of his spiritual path. It was becoming instant. Not magic, not luck, but alignment. He no longer needed to beg the universe. He simply needed to feel in harmony with what he wanted. And when he didn't receive something, he didn't panic. He knew it meant there was something better waiting in timing he couldn't see yet. "You are the manifestation," Source said, "not the chaser. The field responds to your being, not your begging." And Kalen? He stopped chasing for good. Kalen turned on the news one evening and saw it. A massive leak. Documents, recordings, whistleblowers, spilling truths about systems humanity once trusted blindly. But instead of shock, he felt readiness. "It begins," he said aloud. The Pleiadians had warned him. When the solar flash timeline collapses, all false structures will crumble. Truth will rise faster than ever before. He had expected political secrets, yes, but it went beyond that. Families were speaking truth after decades of silence. Old lies between friends were unraveling. Even within himself, Kalen began remembering things he had buried: past lives, childhood trauma, soul missions. It was like the veils were being pulled off every corner of reality. He wasn't alone. His sister Maya called in tears, saying, "I don't know why, but I suddenly remembered something that happened when I was little, and now everything makes sense." People around him were confessing truths, not out of guilt, but from a deep craving to be real. The weight of secrecy was too dense for the golden age frequency, and the light? It wasn't punishing, it was liberating. Kalen felt the shift in his bones. "We're no longer meant to carry what isn't ours," he whispered during one of his walks. Even in dreams, revelations poured in: galactic pasts, spiritual lineages, the hidden hands behind world events. It was all coming to light. "Don't fear what's revealed," the message said. "Truth is medicine. It will sting, then it will free you." Kalen stopped asking for comfort and started asking for clarity, and truth answered, over and over again. Kalen was pacing in his room, frustrated. A decision had to be made. Should he accept the new spiritual teaching position in Costa Rica or stay home to support his family? His mind spun with logic, pros and cons, finances, logistics, but none of it felt right. The more he thought, the more anxious he became. So he did the only thing that brought peace. He placed both hands over his heart and breathed. And that's when the message came. "Feel, Kalen. Don't think." His mind quieted instantly. The pounding in his chest turned into a hum. And from that stillness, clarity arrived, not in words, but in a knowing. "Go. They will be supported without you." Tears formed, not from sadness, from release. He had just made a major life decision not by analyzing, but by listening to his heart field. The Pleiadians had said it would happen. As the mental matrix collapses, the heart's frequency will become your compass. You will no longer think your way through life. You will feel your way forward. From that day on, Kalen stopped forcing answers through thought. He asked his heart daily, "Is this aligned?" And the answers came through body sensations, warmth, pulsing, sudden peace. When his heart tightened, he waited. When it opened, he moved. People noticed the change. "You seem calmer," one friend said, "like you trust everything now." "I do," Kalen smiled, "because my heart never lies." He realized the heart wasn't just a muscle, it was a gate to higher consciousness. While the mind sorted facts, the heart accessed truth. And in the Golden Age, that's where true leadership would arise from. Not ego, but energetic wisdom. It started subtly. Kalen would drive past abandoned land and see community gardens. He'd walk through concrete streets and imagine healing centers made of crystal and glass. And when he slept, his dreams turned into blueprints, whole villages built on frequency, not finance. He wasn't trying to fantasize, he was remembering. One night he asked in meditation, "Why do I keep seeing these visions?" The Pleiadian response came instantly. "You are one of the architects. The collapse of the old grid has opened the canvas. Now you will build." It hit him like a truth bomb. This wasn't just about awakening personally, it was about creating new ways of living for everyone. He began writing down every vision. An education center that taught soul remembrance, homes that ran on zero-point energy, sacred spaces where no one competed, only co-created. Soon, others began messaging him. "Kalen, I had this wild vision. Can I share it with you?" They were seeing the same things, across the globe. Different people, same frequencies. It became obvious. They were all picking up transmissions from the same field, New Earth consciousness, and the field wasn't coming someday. It was ready now. "You will not rebuild the old world," the voice confirmed. "You will create something Earth has never seen." Kalen no longer saw the future as a dystopia. He saw it as divine potential, waiting for the awakened to pick up their tools, not just spiritually, but physically. "We are the builders," he whispered, "and the blueprints are arriving." Kalen once imagined the Golden Age as something distant, a far-off future with floating cities, free energy, and global peace. He thought it would come with trumpets, fireworks, and galactic landings. But then, one soft morning, while sipping tea and watching birds dance in golden light, it hit him. "It's here." He placed his cup down. A warmth filled his chest. Not excitement, not thrill, but peace. A peace that felt like home. He walked outside barefoot and felt the earth hum beneath him. The trees shimmered slightly more. People smiled more genuinely. Even the air had a different texture. "I'm in it," he whispered. The Pleiadian transmission that came that night confirmed it. You will not enter the Golden Age like a doorway. You will wake up and realize you've been walking in it. The shift is not dramatic. It is subtle, cellular, and silent. Kalen looked around. The world hadn't changed, but he had. His perception had upgraded. His body was attuned to joy. He no longer needed permission to be free. No external event could give him what he now carried inside. This was the secret. The Golden Age didn't come with a bang. It came with a soft alignment, a slow blooming. It was already here, for anyone vibrating at the level to perceive it. "I'm not waiting anymore," he said to himself. "I'll live like it's already arrived." And from that moment, everything in his life flowed with grace. He didn't force anything. He embodied everything. The timeline hadn't been destroyed. It had been transcended. He was no longer on the path to the Golden Age. He was living inside it. Kalen was sitting beneath a sycamore tree when it happened. The wind had been whispering through the leaves like usual, But then something shifted. The rustling turned rhythmic, harmonic, like a coded message. He placed his hand on his chest, eyes closed, and whispered, "I hear you." But what came next surprised even him. His lips began to move, but not with English. Sounds rolled out, high-pitched tones, fluid syllables, and gentle clicks. It wasn't gibberish, it was music, language, energy. It frightened him at first. "Am I losing my mind?" he asked aloud. "No," came the Pleiadian reply, gentle but direct. "You're remembering the language of your origin. You're speaking light." He was stunned. It felt natural, like the words had lived in his bones forever. He repeated the sounds, letting his voice rise and fall with trust. Every word pulsed with love. Every breath carried a vibration. It was as if his soul had found its voice. From that moment forward, light language became part of his daily life. When he meditated, it flowed. When he needed healing, it hummed through him. When someone cried in his arms, it came through his voice like a balm. "You're not just speaking," the Pleiadian message clarified. "You're transmitting DNA codes. Light language bypasses the mind. It speaks to the soul." He started recording himself, not for others, but to remember. Yet soon, others began resonating. People would say they felt chills, clarity, or emotions they couldn't explain when hearing him speak it. Kalen realized this language wasn't just for him. It was a frequency tool, an ancient vibration used by intergalactic civilizations to reprogram, awaken, and align. He no longer cared if people thought it was strange. He wasn't here to make sense. He was here to activate. One day, he saw a child at the park speaking light language fluently, without instruction. Their eyes locked. They both laughed, recognizing each other instantly. "It's happening," Kalen thought. "The remembrance is spreading." And so, he continued, speaking from the soul, singing tones that rebuilt the grid, whispering codes into the earth. The golden age wouldn't just be spoken in English or any earth tongue. It would be spoken in frequency, in light, in truth, without translation. Kalen finally understood. This wasn't about sounding beautiful or mystical. It was about speaking in a way that woke the soul, and that's exactly what he came here to do.